Right, my internet's taken a shit. I'm going to blame cyber ploppygones. So let's just assume you all pressed 1 in the chat. You wanted to see me fight this battle. And I'm going to fight this battle. And it's going to be great. And we're all going to talk about how the injustice of the world and income disparities and all those sort of things that Phil talks about with much more authority and knowledge than I do. But that's because Phil actually studied this stuff. I don't. I just have a little think about it. And when I have a little think about it, it's not authoritative because it's just me thinking out loud. And it's the difference between actually doing some study in the thing. So I can talk with some authority about positron emission tomography because I did it, or about epigenetic factors. Because I actually did study that stuff, and it was a load of bullshit, and I hated it. Fucking hate study. I'd much rather just go, alright, I'm going to think a little bit about this subject. Do I like Ukraine? No, not really. It's not a real country anyway. And then someone who actually does do study on it, because they happen to be they got skin in the game, says, yeah, I don't like Ukraine. It's not a real country anyway. It exists at Russia's sufferance. And lately, it has been at the sufferance of Russia. But this isn't about Ukraine. This is about income disparity, so that's it.
The walls are breached.
Didn't take much to breach them walls. What have we got here? Who are these guys? Right, these are velites, but they don't call them velites because we're in the Marian Reformation. Late Republic had a Marian Reformation. When you had legionaries who were professional soldiers. But anyway, I'm not opposed to doing physical labour. I like doing physical labour. That's why I chose the job I did. And I had this great job. Not many drops in the days. 8-hour shift, 6 drops, all local places. Just going to builders and dropping stuff off. And that was all handballed because the builders, order stuff and it'd come on a pallet. And the pallets weren't very, occasionally the pallets would be sealed up. Oh yeah, here's a bunch of cabinets, they're all together. But then the builders would come and take it to the sign, so it was curtain cider. And they'd take it apart and then I'd help them take it apart and unravel things. So it was all handball. And I liked that job, it was fine. The heaviest thing I had to lift up was a porcelain bog and a bathroom sink. And those were heavy, but the rest absolutely fine. I had no problem with them. Right. Let's use flaming shot and you can attack those guys. Because, yeah, you're... Oh. Just concentrate your fire on that, please. Come on, come on. That's it. There we go.
Our general is under attack.
But anyway, got COVID from a colleague, and it's it was actually pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna pretend. Oh, it's just sniffles. My eyes were streaming. They were quite painful, and I couldn't drive. Very dizzy. It was not pleasant, but after about 4 days, was fine. Was back to normal. But they were like, oh no, you need a negative PCR test. I'm like, fuck off. I'm not sticking that needle up my nose. I don't know where it's been for a start. Cotton swab. I've had it done to me once before and never again. Oh no, that means Hobbit's done for, because didn't you realise that's in fact a vaccination? It's like, yes mate, I've had this debate with myself before. It's not a vaccination, because it's not a vaccination in terms of the legal thing. Because otherwise they'd be saying to people, oh well, you don't need an injection for it, you can just have a nasal swab, or we'll squirt some mist up your nose. Because there are vaccines like that. They spray it in your nose, which is a traditional route of administration for disease, infections, and then you're vaccinated. But in this one, it's like, no, you've got to be injected with this mystery juice, where you can't read the ingredients because there's nothing printed on the ingredients. That's the problem with emergency medical stuff. Is you know, it's a bit blank. Anyway, so I had to have a negative PCR test, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll get round to that. And then my granddad died. He had a stroke, and so I called the paramedics, and then he's dead, and nobody else seemed to in my family really cared. No one wanted to visit in the hospital. No one wanted to deal with the registrar and the funerals and all that, and eventually found out he has got a funeral thing planned, because they're like, oh, who's paying for this? And I was like, well, I'm not paying for it. I mean, look, if they need be, I'll dig a ditch, and you know, I'll dump his body into a ditch, but I'm not paying for a. And I found out it's actually illegal to dump bodies in just a bag. You have to get at very least a cardboard box, but I mean, a cardboard box costs 20 quid. Yeah, I'd do that for my granddad, but then I'll be asking my family for that 20 quid. At which point they'll be like, well, we should get a coffin. It's like, yeah, you should be getting a coffin, and you should have a proper funeral. Oh, well, actually, he's got a funeral plan paid for. So that was a bit annoying. So that was just, it felt very frustrating. It's like, what, did no one actually love this man apart from me? I was like, oh, you loved a man, you're gay. So, well, someone's got to love him. Well, I did love my granddad. So that happened, and then now it's like, oh, your MOT's due, and the annoying thing about that was I had to, I've had to do a lot of work on my car to make sure it's still roadworthy. Some of the jobs have been fun. Some of the jobs were like, oh, that was nice and simple, why did I worry about that? But other jobs, like replacing the indicator stalk, that was a pain in the arse. To replace the indicator stalk, you've got to what have you got to do? To replace the indicator stalk, you've got to take off the steering wheel, which means you have to disarm the airbag, which means you have to disconnect the battery, and so that way nothing in your car's energized. And then it's all well and good. You got to unscrew these things which are in difficult places, and the screws are really tight, so you got to use your socket and your adapters. And fortunately, I've got the right tool, so I was able to do that. There's a horrible screw right in the underside, which was an absolute pain in the arse to unscrew. But I'd done all that stuff. That was fine. And then I had to hit my steering wheel with a hammer. I put a piece of cardboard on to protect it, because you shouldn't strike metal on metal unless you're blacksmithing. So I hit it with a hammer to get the steering wheel loose. And then putting the indicator on was pretty straightforward, just slots in place, plug some things in. New indicators work absolutely fine, I'm very happy with that. But then when I come to reconnect the airbag, it's all, the light flashes up, and that's a bit shit, so bit upset with that. So yeah, got to get that done, and it's just like, well, I spent thousands of pounds on lorry driving and haven't really had that much work, and not many places will hire you anyway because you're a new driver, and the jobs you get are shit. Some are nice, most are shit. So I haven't got much to show for it, and now it's just like, well, in order that I can keep on working, I've got to keep spending money on this assets and liabilities. I've got to spend money on this liability. Strange to think of a car as a liability, but it is, and you've got to have your expenses, and they are expensive. And mind you, we're getting into that Agenda 2030 world where you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. That's what the propaganda says. You'll own nothing. You'll be happy. So 2030, no more petrol cars in the UK. Let me just check that. Let me see if there's no diesel cars as well. Oh, but I'm not connected to the internet. Oh, I'm connected to the internet again. Right. No more petrol cars by 2030. Let's see. Government's 2030 ban selling new and petrol cars. This is what car? What do they say? Public Accounts Committee accused the government of having no clear budget plan on how the UK will switch to an electric car future. Well, it's all well and good saying you've got electric cars, but where's all the power stations to recharge them? So, the ban the sale of new petrol and diesel cars by 2030. So I'll still be able to buy second-hand ones. But I imagine a lot of people will be like, actually, you know what? I'm going to hold on to my shit box with 320,000 miles that failed its last 2 MOTs, and you know it's got what looks like mayonnaise in the oil inlet. I think I'll hold on to it, see if I can get some parts and get it back on the road, because if I've got an electric car, well, then, you know, you're stuck to like 100 miles or 50 miles range at best. And then if your social credit's too low, because we're all going to have digital IDs, then you're not going to be allowed to, you're not going to be allowed to, what? You're not going to be able to drive. It's just like, it's no ignition. You don't own the car. The car will be car as a service, and you go in, you use your fingerprint. The fingerprint reader does it, or it will have a camera and it will look at your face and your facial ID, which will be part of your digital ID. It will be there, and it will say, like, oh yeah, you know, you're good. You've had your monthly booster. Yep, you can drive 30 miles today. It's like, oh well, you know, I wanted to go to work and shopping, and that will take 40 miles. I guess I'll go to work and then just order shopping, you know, online. It's like, and then, you know, you do it next month. It's like, yeah, you had your monthly booster, but you're complaining about the generous 40-mile range allowance that you were given. So, you know, you try and tap the car and nothing happens, and then it says, please vacate the car, I'm going to drive off now. So that's the sort of future which they plan. And the thing is, it's very easy to stop it. You just say no. But then, of course, the ability to say no is undermined when you can't afford food, you can't afford fuel, can't afford heating, at which point you're begging and just be like, yeah, look, I'll accept the 40-mile range once a month. You know, the use of the car once a month. I'll eat the bugs because it's better than eating nothing. And then some people will just go, you know what? No, I don't want that. I'm going to do cannibalism. I'm going to commit acts of violence against the state. There's some people will do that. Some people's like, I'm sorry, can't do this. I'm going to be a terrorist now. I'm going to do terrorism. And you know what? I think the state will actually like that. I think they'll be really pleased that people like going to do that, because like, oh yes, all the money we've invested, in all these crowd control things, you know, the microwave guns, water cannons, the spying on you. If you're within 100-meter range of our snooper, it will just like slurp up all the contacts on your phone and read all your messages. You know, they're going to love all that stuff. They'll absolutely love terrorism, because it gives them a legitimate excuse. It's like, oh look, we got to have all this surveillance stuff and crowd control weapons because terrorism. Because, you know, there's people that don't love this new system. I mean, it was a very difficult you know, it's very difficult to get through this with World War III and the food shortages and all that, and we're trying to do our best for people, you know. People are struggling and we're doing the best, and no, you can't have wheat anymore, you can't have meat, and you can't even really have like vegetables. The vegetables aren't there. But you can have plant derived products, and you can have bugs. and you can have monthly boost. You'll need monthly boosters, by the way, because eating the bugs are poisonous and there's diseases in them. So you'll need the boosters, because otherwise your insides will rot. They're going to rot anyway, but at least with the boosters you'll live a bit longer. You know, like factory farming. The factory farm, they need to pump up those animals with antibiotics all the time. Because if you don't pump them up with antibiotics all the time, then they'll just die. So you pump them up with antibiotics, and you accept they're not going to live very long, but they don't have to, because they just live long enough to serve their purpose, and then they're sent to slaughter. And that's what they're going to do with us. They're going to turn us into factory farmed humans, where we'll be put in batteries, much like hens are. And they'll probably even say, well, look, you know, you're happy to have animals treated this way. And it doesn't matter that some people say, well, actually, no, I don't like animals treated that way, and I don't eat those animals, and I'm not going to go and destroy the factory farms which do it, because then I'll be a criminal and I'll lose what creature comforts I have. So I'm not going to actually, you know, die for my cause. But I do object to these things, and I don't have them. But they'll use that as an excuse, because they got this weird sort of morality of saying, wow, you didn't object to it, so you must consent. And if you consent to animals being treated this way, then why have you got any grounds to stand on now? You know, we gave you a choice. You could either die in the world wars, or you can live in our brave new world. And it's completely demonic. It's completely satanic. I mean, you even had that demon in the United Nations doing a vote on how evil Russia was to fight against their demonic hegemony. Oh, and by the way, people say, it wasn't really a demon, it was actually this woman, and because the lighting was bad, and blah, 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 and here's another bunch of, like, reasons. Doesn't matter. The mask slipped, it was a demon, and the demon's raising a hand to vote on, like, more sanctions on Russia. United Nations demon. You go on 4chanx, you'll see, like, a dozen pictures of it. You'll probably see more than that. It's even on poll. It'll be another plate. You go on the 40 Words Telegram chat. You'll see the pictures posted on it. You look at no, that's what I call Aliens Volume 2. Last week's 40 Words. And you'll see pictures of this demon. So the demons are ruling. The mask is slipping now. And there'll be people saying, oh, there's no such thing as demons. Oh, Hobbit's just talking bollocks. It's not a demon, it's a woman. And she had, like, sunglasses on her hair, and the way it glinted, and she's got a mask on. That's why it looked like that. There'll be people willing to do that. They'll explain away everything. But the fact is, demons are real. They exist. The mask is slipping. They think they can get away with it. They think they can force God's hand. And that's why you're seeing all of this satanic shit. Like, including, like, what we'll do now, because apparently farming doesn't work anymore, is we'll get black fly larvae, and we'll feed them on human sewage, because that's hygienic. We'll feed them directly on human sewage, not treat or anything, and then the larvae will just harvest, and that's like, you know, a sustainable source of protein. And you'll need your monthly boosters, because if you're eating if you're eating, like, insects which are grown on human shit, with all the herpes and AIDS and other diseases that humans have got, you're going to need to be vaccinated against that, or you will die. So, I'm sorry, I know that's a bit grim, but you know, these it's a bit easy to, like, see what's happening next. And of course, what I'm saying is outlandish, and it's terrible, and it's fiction. Everything I say is fiction. I'm a schizo who doesn't take his meds. You know, so by all means, explain away what I'm saying, because it's unpleasant, and it should be ignored. Really should be ignored. It's not real. Nothing what I'm saying is real. It's all just make-believe. None of this stuff's going to happen. We're going to get to 2030, and life's going to be as normal. It's going to be normal. It's going to be, you know, £1 a litre for petrol again. Everyone's going to have free-range chicken. No battery farms going to exist anymore. Not going to be any more vaccines. They're going to take fluoride out of the toothpaste. They're going to roll back the 5G networks and get people using wires again. And it's going to be great. It's going to be absolutely great. Everything I'm saying is just, doom and gloom. We're going to win. The globalists are going to be defeated. Alex Jones is going to be installed as Emperor of America. Donald Trump will be good. He won't just be a shitbag. His children won't, poison his mind. He'll be like vice president with Alex Jones as president. Nigel Farage is going to rule the UK. We're going to have a good trading relationship with them. France and the EU will be like, oh, you know what? England's all right, actually. We'll be nice to them. We'll let England come into Europe for holidays again. It's going to be great. 2030, it's going to be absolutely great. We're all going to get girlfriends as well, by the way. And they're all going to be virgins. They'll be virgins, but they'll also be sluts. They'll be virgins, but they're well up for it. They'll know how to do all the sexual things, even though they've got zero sexual experience. And they're not going to have any STDs. They're not going to be vaccinated. They're going to give us loads of babies. It's going to be the land of milk and honey. There won't be any more suffering. It'll all be gone. It's going to be absolutely great. So all the stuff which I said before, where it's going to be miserable and it's going to be hard and it's going to be really fucking difficult. No, that's just lies. That's just propaganda. That's just being a black-pilled faggot, that is. So, and I'm going to take this place and I'm going to rebuild these walls. They're going to be huge walls. They'll be beautiful walls. And these people, I'm not actually going to have to fight them. I'm not going to have to kill any of these people here, right? These people are going to be fine. My legionaries are going to go in there. They're going to have like, they're going to do some interpretive breakdance. And then these guys will be like, oh, well, your moves are better than our moves. They'll try and dance as well. But they'll clearly see my legionaries have got the better moves. They'll be like, you know what, we surrender. And the option will say enslave captives. But really, it's not slavery. It's not. What they're going to do is they're going to own nothing. And they'll be happy. They're going to own nothing and they're going to be happy. So, yeah, it's a bright future ahead of us. And you shouldn't listen to people like me. People like me are always wrong. And we think we're smart, which actually means we're really dumb. The world's going to be great. It's going to be absolutely great. And there's nothing to worry about in the future. Actually, unironically, there is nothing to worry about in the future. Look, whatever the fate's got in store for us,
The walls are breached.
ultimately worrying doesn't do anything about it. Like my worry, oh, maybe my car won't work. Well, if my car doesn't work, then I'll adapt. I'll be like, well, this is how much money it'll cost to make the car work, or this is how much I could get a car for. It might be better than my other car, it might be worse. It might be worse, I might sell it, might lose money, might make money. Doesn't matter. I'll get another car. I'll be alright. Might get a moped. Don't need more than that, really. I'll do that. I mean, if I can drive a lorry, I can drive a fucking moped. And it'll work. Everything will be fine. So there's no point worrying about stuff, because it's going to happen regardless of what you think about it. So really, it's just a case of, well, how are you going to interpret stuff? How are you going to behave when the bad stuff happens? So are you going to be like, oh, well, that's it, that's over now, I think I'll commit, Harry Carry? Or you're going to be like, oh yeah, it's a bit shit, Jesus, save me. And might still be shit, but you'll find a way to deal with it. I think that's the one thing I can agree with the Parasite class. Humanity is nothing if not adaptive. We know how to adapt to things, and despite the hardship and adversity, we get through it. And there'll probably be some evolutionary pressure, There'll probably be some people who would not... Like, how there's some animals which just wouldn't exist in the wild? There's some people... Because the world is going to become a wild place. And as we've seen from wildlife documentaries, wild places aren't bad places. They're just wild. And for some people it's dangerous, but that's because they are not suitable to survive in a wild place. Others are. Others will survive in a wild place. In fact, they won't just survive, they'll thrive in wild places. So, the world is going to be different. I mean, always is, but I think it'll be drastically different. And for some, it'll be very good. And for others, yeah, it'll be very good because they'll be dead. And they'll be like, they're always complaining on Reddit about how their world was suffering and they hate it. And, you know, they hate themselves and they think others should hate themselves because, well, if they hate themselves and they don't want to see other people happy, because it's like, how dare you be happy when I'm not happy? So, I think the world's going to be better for a lot of people.
The walls are breached.
And that's not to say I don't think there's going to be suffering and hardship. There always will be. But I'm even willing to be philosophical about it and say, well, look, okay, I know this suffering's going to happen. Doesn't matter whether I want it, you know, say it ain't so. You know, say no, stick, you know. The suffering's going to happen, the hardship's going to happen, regardless of whether I want it. And I certainly don't want it because I'm poor. So I'm going to be suffering more than someone who's rich and, you know, someone that can afford a £10 loaf of bread. They'll be alright. But for other people, a £10 loaf of bread is just like, oh, you know what? As much as I love bread, I think I'll have these potatoes for £3 instead. I think I'll do that. And I'll make potato cakes. You know, I'll use the flour and I'll make it go a bit longer with mashed potato. I'll do that. I'll use barley. I'll use rye. In fact, I love rye bread, so I'll be all right there. I'll even eat buckwheat. So the thing is, there will be suffering, but it will do evolutionary pressure. You'll adapt. You'll go, I'm eating buckwheat porridge today, even though it tastes rank. I'm eating it because the alternative is you starve and you die. But for some people, that's what they'll do as well. They'll starve and die. And it'll be sad. But the thing is, all this stuff happens all the time. It really does. And this is why, when I say I'm going to be philosophical about it, let me preface that. The suffering, the hard times are coming, regardless of whether you want them or not. I've known about this for a long time because of astronomy. I'm an amateur astronomer. I know about the Milankovitch cycles. I know about the solar weather, and the sun has periods of where it's very quiet, where it's not doing anything, and in those periods, things are very bad. Wheat crops fail, and when wheat crops fail, that's when you get the end of civilization. I don't make these rules, that's what happens. Hang on, someone's saying Australia's weird. How so? Let's see what she says to that. So, right, now we've established that the hard times are coming and the suffering is inevitable. How do we get through this? I'm sure all of us have to a greater or lesser extent, experienced suffering in our lives. Some of us experience quite a lot of suffering, and not just like physical anguish, but mental anguish as well. And it is bad. Like, I think of the physical pain I've been through, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Genuinely would not wish it on my worst enemy. Like, when I think of my worst enemies, I think best thing for them is a swift execution, where you do it as humanely as possible, because I believe in the afterlife. I believe there is judgment after death, and when you send the condemned to die and send them to God, they're going to be like, well, I was sent here, but before I was sent here, I was brutally tortured and I died over a period of 3 days. It was absolute agony. And regardless of what that criminal, you know, the one you've sent to death has done, God's going to be like, right, well, look, you fucked up, you've sinned, this is your punishment, but they've also fucked up. When they get here, believe you me, they will be punished. So my worst enemy, I would want a quick and painless death. Because really my worst enemy is like, look, I can judge you, I can say you're an arsehole and I hate you. But it's not my place to judge you. Only God can judge you. So I'm going to send you to God. You know, a court is going to find you legally that they can't judge you. And they're going to send you to the highest authority, which is God. And that's why you have capital punishment. So the physical pain I've been through would not wish on my worst enemy. But I'd like to think from it, I'm going to use that cope. It's character building. I've got character. I'm philosophical. I can use philosophy to overcome pain and hardship. And I think that's what people will do. Those that survive will become philosophical. They will love wisdom. They'll understand the foundation of knowledge comes from God. And they will be a better people for it. So as much as I hate what's going to happen, as much as I hate the parasites and the way they're going to suck the blood from the last surviving hosts to do it, we will survive this. We always have done in the past.
At your command.
And by the way, I don't think the coming hardships are entirely artificial. Not at all. The Grand Dam of Marib. I've never heard of that. Apparently that exists. Huh. Yeah. Yeah, I'll have a workshop actually, that'll be good. When I say, of course a lot of this will be artificial. You know, the parasites that be, they're doing things which are unnecessary and are going to make the suffering worse. But the thing is, the parasites, they have access to some of the brightest minds in the world. And the brightest minds in the world say, well look, we've observed solar cycles. We know what's coming next. We know that when this happens, when the star does this, this on Earth happens. Bad times are ahead. You know, prepare accordingly. And it's going to be hard. And the parasites that be like, great, we're going to do this, you know, we're going to obey our Dark Lord and Master Satan now, the devil, and we're going to do all the things because he sees it as a time to move on God's creation and gone, like, whilst they're down, kick them, trip them, and let's get them fully sub. Let's turn humanity into a slave race, like the Greys, who have got no soul. In fact, when people say Greys aren't aliens, they're in fact humans from the future that have lost all their soul. That's what they want from people. The Grey is a pod people. It's got no soul. It's just an android, basically. It's a flesh and blood android that has no free will, and it just does the bidding of its masters. I could believe that. I could well believe that. So yeah, hard times are ahead, but nothing to worry about. Anyway, I think I've done as much as I want. Like, these little provinces... Oh, yeah, that was the point. There was, like, Senate successionists here. And they were like, oh, we don't like your glorious rule. Well, fuck you. I didn't ask you. We'll deal with them. And then we'll deal with these bastards here as well, because Ir Bargum is going to become Roman. But anyway, I've done as much conquering as I want to do now. Just a minute. So we're done now. Bye, mate.